Someone You Should Know. A program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sachs, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sachs.
Well, it's Friday morning at 10 o'clock, and that means it's time for Someone You Should Know. I welcome every one of you that are listening. I hope you are dealing with our pandemic crisis in the country to the best that you can. It's great for us because that means that if you've got no place else to go, you can sit at home and you can be listening or watching us. Again, listening to us at KVGI.com, or better yet, go to Facebook, KVGI Radio, or Facebook, or YouTube. We're now streaming on YouTube. So we are not only radio, but we are visual. And I have a guest in my studio that is probably the furthest thing from a coronavirus pandemic that you could be. I have Travis Chick, who is the owner of Dallas Tattoo. Welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Glad to have you here. And this is a strange story because I met you 4 days ago.
Yeah.
we happened to be having breakfast at the same place, and he pulls up in his pickup truck, and on the back of the truck it says Dallas Tattoo, and that's been a topic that's been on my list for a long time. And there's this tall, good-looking, strapping guy, and I see his tattoos up on his neck, and you may be able to see those from, I'm surprised you didn't come in a T-shirt or something
it's cold outside.
to show to show the art.
I had to dress accordingly.
Yes, you did, and also you got to keep the germs.
Yeah, I'm trying to contain them
inside. But what you can do while we are talking, you can go to TravisChickTattoos.com, and you can look at some of his work, and I will guarantee you will be blown away because it is absolutely beautiful what he does, black and white and shades of gray, but also in full color. And we're going to talk this morning about how you got into it, your passion for it, and also he's a new friend, and he's also a military veteran, so I thank you for your service.
Same to you.
Thank you. And let's start at the beginning. Where are you from originally? Right here?
Yeah. Born Dallas County and raised in Collin County for the most part, but born in Dallas County, raised in Frisco.
Very good.
Yeah.
And went all through school here, and you studied art.
Yeah.
Which was you? I think you said in some information that I saw that you started at a very young age, starting to design tattoos, and designing art and all, or getting the feel for what you wanted to do.
Yeah, pretty much. Without even realizing what I was doing, I was more or less just really bored. And I had these big gel pens, these fine point pens, and when I get really bored, I just start drawing on myself. And I wasn't even really into tattoos at the time. I was in high school, about halfway through high school, and I just started drawing, and I get carried away. I'm ADD, so I would get zoned out on something, and I would just start drawing. And when I would do that on my arm, I would end up, there was a couple of times I almost did an entire sleeve on myself, just bored.
Just with fine point pens.
Yeah, I did that one time. I was at a competition, and I was bored waiting to be seen, for my work to be seen, and I did like an entire forearm piece. And I had people walking, these are like high schoolers, and I had them like walking through the hall looking at me like, oh my God, what's on his arm? Like, does that kid have tattoos? Like, he's got an entire sleeve on his arm. Like, I noticed people like staring at me like, oh my gosh, what is that? And I was like, that's kind of cool.
Well, yeah, in this case, staring is a good thing.
Yeah, right? I mean, people notice your art, especially when it's on your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different.
So that led you to go ahead, you studied art, we're at Collin? For a while?
Yeah, I went to Collin County Community College, did a few classes there before that in high school. I was in regular art, and I guess I should preface this by explaining how I got into the art class. I was more or less, I wouldn't say a problem child. I just got into trouble a lot. So,
I can relate to that.
yeah. So, it was actually my assistant principal that recommended that I get into art class, and I got into regular art class. And apparently, I didn't even realize I was doing good at it, but I was. And my teacher just picked me up one day, and she said, "Hey, follow me. Get all your stuff." And there was a little pass through to the AP art room, and she just took me over to the AP art room. And she's like, "This is your teacher now," and introduced me to the AP teacher. And I was in that room. I was in the AP room for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe. And the AP art teacher came to me, and she's like, "Hey, get your stuff and follow me." And she took me into like the mat room where they make frames and stuff out of mat board for pictures.
Right.
And she's like, "This is your room. You stay in here by yourself. You have 12 pieces that are due by the end of the year. So you pass my class. The rest of the time, I just want you to spin drawing competition pieces." So it was my
Obviously, she saw something in you.
I guess I didn't know what she was seeing, but I was like, "Okay, you mean everybody's gonna leave me alone and I can just like sit back here and draw? That's cool. I'd love to do that."
What a great deal, you know.
So I spent, I believe it was about 2 years, the last 2 years in high school. Just the first period of every day was spent isolated in a mat room by myself with headphones on, just drawing whatever I wanted to. I had nothing else to do, so and I liked doing it, so I just drew and drew and drew and got better at it. And then when I got out, I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna keep trying to perfect this," and did it in college.
Now, some of the things that you were drawing at that time, are they reminiscent of some of the tattoo work that you're doing now? They were, because you do a lot of beautiful facial pieces, as well as statue type art. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very intricate. That's what just amazes me. So this is what you were doing on what you said, poster board or something? What was?
Yeah, different types of mat board and stuff like that. So they in the art room they had all the mat board there for making frames, and she was like, "You can have whatever you want," the teacher. So I was okay. I just start grabbing different colors and seeing what these images look like on different colors and different textured papers and stuff. But yeah, to answer your question more to the point, I kind of was drawn to the expression of human emotion through portraits, because all the body language that can be expressed through facial movement and expressions of the face and stuff like that can tell just ample amounts of information. Can tell you ample amounts of information about the way someone's feeling, about a story, about a situation. It can put you into a situation just by looking at someone's face. So yeah, I was really drawn to that, and I did a lot of portraits. Actually, the majority of all my stuff was pretty much portraits, and it was all black and white pencil. I stuck to pencils. I didn't have like I said, I was ADD, so I didn't have the attention span to stick to painting. Like at the end of I would seriously finish entire pieces in like an hour and a half in my class, because by the next day, like I didn't care about it anymore. I wanted to do something else.
You were beyond it. It's on the next project.
So painting was one of those things that I was like, it takes too long. I'm just keep drawing.
Again, for those that are listening, if you're sitting in front of a computer right now, go to TravisChickTattoos.com and look at what we're talking about, because he's got some samples of his black and white work, and the color work. But again, I'm just and I'm not really that well versed on tattooing, but the detail that you have to be able not only to create that detail on a canvas, but to be able to recreate that detail on skin is just amazing to me. Just any one of these normal size arm, I guess, from shoulder to elbow type pieces, how long does it take to do one tattoo or something like that?
There's a lot of variables that go into it.
Black and white is different from color, huh?
So black and white is different from color. Those are all different. There's different styles in tattooing. There's traditional, neo-traditional, color realism, surrealism, black and gray realism, black and gray surreal, illustrative, cartoon, like as many as you can think of. There's something that fits into that niche or that genre. So a lot of the stuff that I do is black and gray realism slash like surrealism or creative realism.
Right.
And if we're talking about shoulder to elbow, an outer half sleeve would be shoulder to elbow from mid bicep to mid tricep, and that's all what shows on that outer plane of your arm when you're standing at a normal stance. They generally take about 2 days. Accumulatively, I've done them, they've taken me anywhere between 16 to 22 hours, accumulatively between 2 days. They can take longer. I don't think I've ever executed anything in less than about 15 hours, at least at that scale. But it's really all dependent on what you were talking about with all the detail and stuff like that. If it's something that's heavily detailed, it's going to take much more time. And it's just, that's what it takes. I mean...
All right. Now you said earlier that sometimes you do a piece, you sit down and you'll knock it out when you were painting. You would do it within an hour or something, and then you say, "Okay, that's finished," and you wouldn't go back.
Yeah.
Obviously, if something like a tattoo takes 22 hours or something, are people there for 2 consecutive days, or is it something where they may come back once a week for 4 weeks in order to complete the project? And that means that you've got to pick up where you left off and continue.
Yes. So, I'm not 17 anymore, so I've exercised quite a bit more patience now that I'm older. And
well, how old are you now?
31.
Oh, because you're not much more than 17.
No, I guess not. So
at least compared to me.
Yeah, it's all in perspective. It depends on your perspective.
Right.
My 12-year-old is like, "I'm old. I'm a grown up." I'm like, "No, you're not." So, but it takes a lot of time and patience, and every time that I do a tattoo like that, it's an exercise in patience.
For both you and the
definitely
and the client.
Yeah, if you have to, you have no idea how hard it is to sit in one spot for 12 hours straight, 12 hours straight. Like I tell most of my clients, like your butt's gonna hurt more than your tattoo by the end of this. Seriously, and most of them that is the case. So I typically like to do 2 full day sessions, back to back. So if we have a large piece, then we want to get to at least the halfway point in the first day. If we can get a little bit further, then that's good. That may take us 8 to 10 to 11 hours.
It helps with your focus too.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get. Well, it's saying like, okay, this is telling the client like you can expect this is a 2-day piece. I can execute this entire thing in 2 days. This is what you're paying for. This is why you took 2 days off work or something to come get this done.
Right. I
need to meet that goal because your willingness to show up and pay for it. I need to do my job too. What we'll do is we'll get as far as we can the first day, at least the halfway point, if not further. And then the second day, it's literally the second day, I'll wrap it, either with saran wrap or some sort of thing to keep it clean throughout the night. And then I'll come back the next day and we'll just get right back into it and finish it out. And that takes as long as it takes.
It's amazing to me because we were talking earlier about the difference between tattoo and body art.
Yeah.
Completely different. When I was growing up, after World War II, is my earliest recollection was when veterans were coming back and having their girlfriends' names tattooed on their arm and all. And,
yeah, people still do that.
Yeah, and very often they would go to something called a tattoo parlor, and sometimes it was down the alleyway, and it was in somebody's garage.
Yeah,
and that was kind of an image that I think a generation or so had, but. We were also talking earlier about the fact that tattooing as an art form goes back almost 5,000 years.
Yeah.
to primitive cultures that did it as a form of recognition or hierarchy within their tribes. And I really wasn't aware of that until I started to do a little bit of reading about it. So that's one aspect of it, and we still see that today in some cultures.
Yeah.
The other side was just, anchors away for those guys that served in the Navy and wanted to carry flags on their arms the rest of their lives. But then to it as an art design.
Yeah.
And you don't operate a tattoo parlor. You've got a studio that is absolutely magnificent.
Thank you.
That's on the website also. So, for those that are interested and serious about having a particular piece of tattoo art, I encourage you to get in touch with Travis and all, and he'll tell you what he can do, and if it's something you're serious about, do it right.
Please do.
Yeah. You probably heard the other stories too.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to touch on a point that you made. That,
Sure.
Like what you thought about. There's a generation that thinks about tattooing as this thing. It's like a back alley kind of biker mentality when it comes to tattooing, which it was at one point. It was very shunned,
Very popular,
very illegal.
Yeah.
In most places, to tattoo, and
Well, it was associated with the penal system too.
Yeah.
Prisoners went into to incarcerated prisoners would often, that was kind of their outlet.
Well, that's where the style that I do, black and gray, that's where that started. Fine line black and gray was a something that was started by the Chicano culture in prison, and all they had was like a guitar string. So they're doing a lot of fine line work, and when those guys came out of prison and they started making money doing what they were doing, a lot of people started taking notice of the way that they were tattooing and saying, wow, that's crazy. I never thought to do that. I didn't know you could do that.
Right.
It was all something new, and then it blew up into something else. I mean, everybody knows Ed Hardy, the shirt. The shirt is the least of the things that you should know about Ed Hardy. I mean, he's an amazing artist that studied in Japan and came back here, and his style of tattooing and design and artwork was a mixture of Japanese and American traditional artwork. It was a mixture of that Japanese cultured artwork and a lot of the military stuff that you've seen in a design aspect. And he got together with a couple of people here and opened up a shop in California. And one of those guys was a guy named Freddie Negretti. And he had that Chicano fine line black and gray style. And they pioneered, I mean, in a lot of sense, they pioneered a lot of that stuff and brought it to the forefront of society. And people started seeing these massive body pieces, back pieces, front panels, like
Right.
throat to, belly button, these big pieces of artwork in there. This is absolutely amazing. So, I mean, it's an art form, very much so. It's not just this thing that people got to show the fact that they spent some time on a ship in the Navy, but that's just as
Right.
important, because when you're talking about going back as far as like the Samoan culture and Egyptian culture that marked their bodies to show a time in their life or something that they did.
Yep.
Like that's just as important, and that rings true. And a lot of the reasons that people get tattoos now is to show something that was important to them, or something that explains who they are, how they've become who they are today. But there's so much that goes into it.
Another question that I had is: Are there legal restrictions as to what age someone has to be in order to have a tattoo, or can anyone with, if it's a young person that wants to get a tattoo, they have to have sign a document or something by their parents or something in order to do it? Or is it at 18, you're on your own and you can do whatever you want with your body?
It is different in different states.
Okay.
In certain states, you can have a signed waiver from an adult if you're under the age of 18. That is not the case in Texas. You have to be 18 with or without a waiver from your parents. It does not matter. We have people that come in, they're like, hey, my 17-year-old daughter really wants a tattoo on her neck. And we're like, that's a bad idea. And she can't get it anyways. So, no.
But when she's 18, she shows up at your
No,
at your
she goes
door?
to somebody's garage, gets
Oh,
it done
well, I was
terribly,
gonna
and then shows
yeah.
up at 18, and she's like, "Can you cover this?"
Right. Yeah. And you're absolutely right, because if that's the case, they will find a way. I had a son that got his ears pierced when he was about 15. I had a daughter that put a rod through her tongue when I think she was 15 or 16.
Have you ever seen people split their tongues? You ever seen that?
No, I haven't seen that.
It's a form of body modification, and they'll split it right down the center, and it becomes almost lizard-like. And because of the muscle structure of your tongue, you can actually operate both sides of your tongue and cross them over, and it's crazy looking. And I think it's the coolest thing I've ever seen, but I would not do it. Nobody's cutting my tongue in half. But I love it. But yeah,
You said earlier, it's a form of expression. And granted, a lot of people love it, and there is a whole music culture that follows it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an awful lot of people that just thinks it's the ugliest thing they've ever seen. Okay, if you do, turn your head away. You don't have to look at it. Just like there's television shows that you think are too antisocial, turn them off.
A lot of people that get tattoos, they are saying, I don't care what you think. This is me. This is my body. This is what I'm telling people who care to see it or care to listen and care to look. But if you don't, I don't care.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah. And that's very strong in the music culture too, because certain genres of music and all that kind of go along with that feeling about expression with the piercings, with the body art, and all. It's a fascinating industry, and you got into it. Really started doing it when you were relatively young.
As far as tattooing itself, I didn't get into it till I was in my 20s. So I went into college, did a couple classes, and then life happened, and I had a kid, and then I had to go get a 9-to-5. So I did that for a while. I spent about 5 years chasing an apprenticeship. I've been all over North Texas. Mostly the Metroplex area, anywhere that I could feasibly get to within a decent amount of time so that I could be there for an apprenticeship if I needed to be, if I got accepted. And I got told to, and not so many nice words, leave. No, quite yelled at and ran out of shops. It's a very closed off culture to anybody that's trying to pollute it with a lack of knowledge or integrity for what it's really about and where it came from. So going into a tattoo shop and be like, I want to be a tattoo artist, a lot of people would be like, you need to leave before I hit you in the face.
Yeah. And also what you said earlier is very often if it requires an apprenticeship, somebody doesn't want. Well, no, I don't want to waste my time doing an apprenticeship and everything. I'll just go down that alley and find that garage where somebody can show me how to take a.
Anybody and their mom can go online and get a tattoo kit and go screw up somebody's skin.
Yeah.
Which please don't, because then I have to fix it, and it's really a pain in the ass. Can I say that? Can I say that?
Yes,
Okay,
you can. Yes, you can.
Good deal.
But then you did. You found an artist that gave you an apprenticeship.
I was fortunate enough. After it took me about 5 years to find an apprenticeship, and at about 3 years into that, I had met my now business partner and mentor. His name is Caden DiGiovanni. And he started tattooing me, and I would show him my drawings. At first I asked him for an apprenticeship, and he's like, look, I can't do that. He was working at somebody else's shop. He's like, I don't have the ability to say yes to that. And I was like, okay. And I wanted this cool picture tattooed on me, and he's like, I love doing stuff like that. Bring me more of that, and I'll tattoo you at a discounted rate, and I'll critique your work. I did that for 2 years. Got an entire back piece. I got an entire sleeve from him, and I would just draw, and I bring it in every time I came in for another tattoo appointment. I'd bring it in and say, hey, what do you think about this? And he'd give me pointers and things to do, things not to do. And then eventually one day, he was like 4 hours into a session on my back, and he's like, hey, I'm going to open up my own studio. Do you want to come? And I had a full team. You know, I had a full-time job at the time, and I had a kid and everything. And I was like, yeah, of course I want to. And he's like, okay, cool. If I ever think that you're giving less than 100%, then I'm going to kick you out. And at that
Fair
point,
enough.
I was like, cool, I can do that. I can give you 110.
And so you apprenticed with Caden
Mm-hmm.
for a number of years, and now you are partners in Dallas Tattoo.
Yeah. It's funny how things work, but it worked out that way. Yeah. So, like you said, I was in the military, and at the time that I got the apprenticeship, I was in the military.
Oh, okay.
And I actually got deployed a year into my apprenticeship, about a year and a half into my apprenticeship, to Afghanistan. And when I came back, he was like, hey, look, I'm moving to Colorado. I need to change the scenery. Do you want to buy the shop? I'll give you the shop. I'll give you the website, and you can just start grinding away. So I gave him what money I did have left from my deployment, and that's what I did. I kept my head down. I tattooed everything. I didn't say no to anything. I figured out how to do things, and I kept growing my clientele until sooner or later he got sick of Colorado and came back, and I was like, hey, why don't we open up a bigger place? Bring in more artists, create an environment that we want to see.
Okay, so because that was the next question I was gonna ask you, because of the photos that I saw of the studio, was now you were an apprentice and now you're in a position of being an owner, and now finding these up and coming talents that have the talent to be an apprentice and carry the business forward. We have to take a break for a commercial,
Sure.
Or two, and we'll be right back and discuss a little bit more about what you do and how you decide on the designs with your clientele and all. Is it their decision? Is it your decision? Collaborative effort. But we'll break. We'll come right back with someone you should know, Travis Chick.
3, 2, 1. KVGIRadio.com.
Y'all have really just opened my bubble and just...
KVGI Radio brings you conversation and entertainment. Be sure to follow us on social media. Who streams the best talk shows? We do.
listening to KVGIRadio.com. Streaming live from the KVGI studios in Frisco, Texas. Live without limits.
Someone you should know. A program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sachs, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sachs.
And we are back live without limits here at KVGI Radio in Frisco, and we are talking with Travis Chick, who is the owner and artist extraordinaire at Dallas Tattoo.
Thank you.
And as always, we continue to talk during the break while you're listening to the commercials or listening to the break music in between. We continue to talk, and we were talking a little bit about having a tattoo shop here, say in Frisco, and you're saying that there are restrictions from community to community about where they can be located and how. So you can expound on that.
Well, anything like any business, it's all dependent on the way that the city is zoned, so as to where you can set up shop. And to revert back to something that we said earlier, the mentality of tattoo shops is the biker outlaw,
right? Going to be open all night long,
outside society kind of thing. Yeah, is still the mentality amongst a lot of people that are the powers that be. So finding somewhere within a city that you can open up shop is a little bit difficult. I did look in Frisco when we were originally considering opening up a new shop, and the way it is as of when I was looking at it, which was about a year and a half ago, was that it was zoned in such a way that you could only open up a tattoo shop in a very small area of Old Frisco between just off of Main Street between Preston and North County. And the other rule in there was that you could not have a competing business within so many miles of your shop or their shop, or so that took that one shop that is already in Frisco, and it closed it off to anyone else. Grandfathered it in and closed it off to anyone else that wants to open up business in Frisco.
All right, so let me ask this question. We have strip centers everywhere around in Frisco and all. And if that is an established business area and you are an established business, why can't you go into a strip center and say, I want to rent this, just like they have beauty salons, they have nail salons, and they'll have them almost next door to each other as far as you talk about the amount of saturation that there is in a business. What would prevent you from going into one of those strip centers and renting 1,000 square feet or something and having a tattoo studio, not a parlor,
a body art studio,
a body art studio, yes.
Again,
or do you have to get a variance? You would have to get a variance in order to do that.
Well, there's a lot of different things that go into it. One, whoever owns the strip center, they have to be willing to be like, yeah, I'm cool with a tattoo studio. A lot of them want, a lot of them aren't, and it's crazy to think that, because, like I said, it's the mentality that this is a outside society kind of thing, because they'll allow a tattoo parlor or they'll allow a CBD shop, which I don't think there's anything wrong with any of those, but they won't allow they'll allow a massage place and a CBD shop. They won't allow a tattoo parlor, which makes absolutely no sense to me.
Well, CBD shops are opening up.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, every few blocks now too.
Just waiting for Texas to legalize it, and then they're going to be booming.
All right, so you said that the old Frisco is where it's designated right now.
Yeah, that's farther than the last time I looked.
That's in Collin County. If you go west of the tollway,
that's just city. That's Frisco.
City.
Plano.
Okay.
Plano's different. Addison's different. Dallas is different. Colony is different.
So the first thing you really have to sell them on is the fact that you are an art studio, if you will, rather than a tattoo parlor. That's what it's a difference between a beauty salon and a barber shop.
Well, the laws and the rules are set in place based on information that is not based on a lack of information. Pretty much, people don't understand what they're talking about when they set these rules forward and put them in stone, and then that makes it impossible for us to break that mold and show what a true tattoo studio is. A body art studio. It's an art studio. So it's hard for us to get into the community when they continually confine us to the kinds of areas that make you think biker shop, outside society, the older areas that people don't really want to go to sometimes.
Well, that's why I said at the outset and you use the word perception, that a lot of people just don't have the perception of what the difference is between body art and tattoos. Yeah. And I said to you, so if somebody, a young lady comes in and says she'd just like to have a little butterfly or something on right on her shoulder or something, that's not really who you're all about. You might do it, fine, but that's not what Travis Chick is all about. You are into more of that artwork type of project rather than just simple little Tweety bird or butterflies just to make a little statement, or mom with the heart around it.
What you see on my website and on my social media and what I put forward as my portfolio is the kind of stuff that I like to do. That is the kind of artwork that I'm trying to perpetrate and put out there and get people's interest with, and so that they come in. The more I do it, the more I show it, the more people see it, then they're like, hey, I want something like that.
And referral becomes your form of advertising.
But I still do butterfly tattoos and names and stuff like that. I have nothing against doing any of those. I have a lot of people that come in, they're like, this is probably below the scope of what you do. The fact of the matter is that my artwork means something to me, and I love doing it. And when I'm lucky enough to find somebody that's willing to pay me to do it, I love it. That's awesome. It's amazing. That's how I make my living. But at the same time, if somebody comes in and they want a butterfly, there's a reason they want that butterfly. That's important to them. And it is not my job or my right to judge them for that.
Right.
It is only my job to give them the best tattoo possible. So no matter what it is, whether it's a name, a semicolon, a butterfly on the shoulder, that's a big step for them. For someone that doesn't have any tattoos and they're like, I want a butterfly on the back of my shoulder, I take that seriously because that's their only tattoo. This is a big step for them. So they want a really good tattoo that's going to be done really well.
Do you find that those first timers that come in and get that one tattoo, once they've bridged that hurdle,
Yeah.
And they've done it, they find it's taken them years to get up the gumption to do it. They do it, that they will come back and say, I think I would like to do another one and another one.
Yeah, quite often. And I tell people that a lot of people call it addicting, and I guess you can call it that. I choose to see it from a different perspective, and that's pretty much the stigma that's put on to having tattoos, getting tattoos, being a part of that society now. Once you get that done, that's a stigma, and once that's gone,
right,
people look at their own body art and say, I love this thing that's on me. I think it's beautiful. I want more of it. I mean, that's what I did when I first started getting tattoos. I looked at my tattoos and I'm like, this is way more interesting than my blank skin. So why don't I just cover that too?
Did you find that were people staring at you when you were young and you started with your first tattoo? Were people looking at you kind of cross-eyed, wondering what's happened to Travis? He was such a nice, clean-cut guy.
People automatically judge, and that is going away. It's slowly going away. A lot of police departments, even a lot of corporate businesses, they're doing away with that stigma. Especially you see it in a lot of tech industry. They don't care. You see entire departments of IT guys that are covered in tattoos, and they're walking around all these other dudes with suits,
right?
On the 8th floor, and all these guys from the IT department in the basement come up covered in tattoos, and they're like, "That's awesome, man! I love that."
It's the guys that are it's the guys up on the 8th floor that are saying, "Oh man, that's really cool. I wish I had one of those."
Exactly. So the stigma is going away very much, and it's being more widely accepted for a form of art and a form of expression, and something that is not looked down upon or makes you something lesser than.
Well, like you said earlier about you associated with bikers and prisoners and that, but in the music industry, in the theater industry, a lot of actors and actresses and all have a desire to have a tattoo. Maybe not full body coverage, but they have tattoos. So it's I think it's spreading in society a little more.
Can I make a point?
Sure. It's your show.
For all those, for all those stars and musicians and stuff that are getting tattoos on their faces and just random tattoos, Justin Bieber, just random tattoos. Stop getting bad tattoos, please. Get good tattoos. I swear, every teen is looking at your tattoos going, "That's awesome." It's not. Most of them are not good tattoos. A lot of them are. I'm not saying they're all not.
I can say that about some of their music too.
Some of the stuff that these people are getting is like, why did you do that?
Well, see, because you're ultra critical.
Very much. I'm my own worst critic
about it, and that's important. All right. The one question somebody texted me was, "Does it hurt?"
Yeah.
Be
sure.
Be prepared for it.
And
but does it hurt less now with the new or more updated equipment that you're using than it did maybe 10 years ago?
No,
or is it the same?
It's still a needle going. Well, I'm sure it hurts a lot less than Tabori, which is the old stick and jab,
Yeah.
Yeah, just jamming a needle into somebody's skin, but it's pretty much the same thing, only it works off of a motor in some cases. Or
so
coil.
You said a full tattoo could be 22 hours, so that's 22 hours of pain.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the way that I work very meticulously, at a deliberate pace, if you want to categorize it that way. So I work very soft. I build tones. I'm working with gray tones. It's actually just black that's just diluted with a couple of drops of white in certain tones, to create that variation across the spectrum of dark to light dark. To light.
Right.
and then I put white as highlights and stuff like that to bring it forward. But yeah, it's
it's no.
I forgot your point.
No, I was talking
Good
about
question.
the pain aspect of it.
Thank
because
you. The pain, it there is no getting around it. When I have clients come in and they're first timers and they'll be like, "Is this gonna hurt?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's really good. It's going to hurt."
in a
It's
word,
not.
yes.
A lot of people are like, "Does this feel like I'm getting stabbed in the gut?" No, it's not. It's not that. It's a very irritating pain. For what I do, I've had first timers come in and sit for 9 hours to get a tattoo because of the way that I tattoo. It's very soft, deliberate. I'm building tones. I'm not just jabbing it in there. But overall, tattoos suck. They do.
You have to be prepared for it.
Yeah, but it's also all in perspective is the point I was trying to make, because people ask me what my most painful tattoo was, and you know, everybody's different because everybody has different nerve endings and they're located in different places,
and
different pain tolerances
Yeah.
too. So some people will say this spot hurt more than that spot, and other people will say that spot didn't hurt at all. But mine is like, okay, the last tattoo that I got was my neck. That was terrible. My neck and my chest are probably the worst.
Because
I
it's
still
a more
haven't finished my
sensitive
chest.
skin area. Yeah, not like the hand, which is
Actually, the hand sucks too.
yeah.
It's all in perspective. Like
Right.
my inner forearm did not hurt nearly as bad as my neck. So that's when it's like, okay, does the neck hurt? Yeah, it really hurts. Does the forearm hurt? Not as bad as the neck. So, but tattoos hurt. If tattoos didn't hurt and they were just a cakewalk, everybody would have them.
That's right.
But that's a big part of getting a tattoo, is accepting that I'm doing this because I want to do it, and I'm going to go through this process and commit myself to it and go through the pain to achieve this thing that I want. And you have to want that.
That may be more of that decision why somebody goes in and gets that little tattoo, and yeah, it hurt, and I don't think I'm going to get another one. So, or that wasn't so bad. I think maybe next year I'll go back and get another one.
Yeah, the perspective on that varies very much between person to person. Someone may come in and be like, "That was horrific. I never want to do that again." And other people are like, "That wasn't that bad. I'll be back in. I'm going to get it like an entire lower sleeve."
What age groups do you work with?
Mostly,
at least.
So I've tattooed people as young as 18 to as old as...
Because that's the law.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not putting my job in jeopardy for some 17 or 16-year-old that wants to get a tattoo before it's legally doable. But
go to the parlor.
Yeah. Go to your friend's garage and
then
come back and hit me up when you're 18.
Then come back when you're 18. Come back and
don't go to your friend's garage. Yeah. And then people as old as in their mid to late 60s. I don't believe I've tattooed anybody over the age of 70
really?
yet. But a lot of people spend their entire career in the white collar industry, and having those people that have been into it 30 years, when they got in, tattoos were very, very frowned upon, so that wasn't even a consideration.
Right.
But they retire and they come in, they're like, I've loved tattoos for the longest time, but I never could get one. I want to do an entire sleeve. And they've been obsessing over it and wanting this thing, this beautiful thing.
I'm ready for the pain.
Bring it on. Yeah, let's do it.
Good. So, if folks want to get in touch with you to reach you through the website, is that a good way?
If you want to see my portfolio, I ask everyone to take a look at my portfolio and make sure that what I'm doing is along the lines of what you want to see in your tattoo. Just so that we're on the same page for the most part when you come in and talk to me. Go to TravisChickTattoos.com and you can view my portfolio there. I also have a contact link on there. You fill out a little questionnaire and I get that, and then I'll shoot you back an email as soon as I am able to check them.
That's great. Well, initially my idea was I was going to talk to a guy that just does tattoos, but I definitely know now that I've been talking to an artist for the last hour. I thank you for taking the time and coming in and sharing what you do with our audience. And thank everybody for watching the show, you can go back on, share it with your friends, and let them know that this, if you enjoyed the show, let them take a look at the show. Go on Facebook or onto YouTube, and you can catch up on the show. But Travis Chick, thank you very, very much for being someone you should know.
Thank you so much for asking me to come on.
All right, we'll be here again next week at the same time, so make it a good weekend, and take care of yourselves and be well.